Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this conference. This is the 16th year that we have this conference. I remember when we started this, it was a very small conference. It was a risky business to have an institution, CAF, a small institution, trying to get into the Washington area and have a conference. And then, of course, I found good partners. One was the Interamericano Dialogue, and the other one was the OAS. And we started that way. And 16 years after that, we are very pleased to have this type of conference. You see, the program is a program in which the topics are quite relevant for the discussion, not only of what is going on today, not only about the past, but the challenges that the region and hemispheric relations have for the future. And a brief comment, since we are going to have 2 days essentially discussing all these elements in more detail. But the fact of the matter is that in these 16 years, the world has changed substantially. It's a different world. Latin America has changed substantially. Remember, those of us who were in public policy or ministers in our countries a few years ago, or 10, 15 years ago, more than that, we were a little embarrassed sometimes to get into an economic meeting, because always we were pointed out, you are responsible. And today, you know, the Latin Americans we're very happy. We get in the same room, and this time we can say, we are not part of the problem. We are or could be part of the solution. And this has been done thanks to several changes that have occurred in these 2 decades. If you go to the economic side, which is going to be a discussion tomorrow, the panels are going to discuss this, well, there's no doubt that Latin America has had the best years. The last few years have been the best, perhaps, in many, many decades. There are many factors. Positive are good macro policies from the one side, the lessons that we learned from the past mistakes, the external factor, which was quite favorable, especially for South America. But at the same time, there are bad things, and the bad things are in the questions that we have to answer is really Latin America developing? Are we going to be able to converse with industrialized countries in 10, 15 years? Are we able to solve in a sustainable manner the issues of efficiency, productivity, and inclusion, and environmental sustainability? Well, those are challenges. Are we doing the right things? And that's another point. Also, let's look at the hemisphere. When we initiated these meetings, what I see, the relationship between Latin America, the United States, and Canada was a little different. I think that the ties, I'm sorry to say, were stronger because we were weaker and there was more dependence. And we saw in all administrations, notwithstanding the fact whether they were Republicans, Democrats, whatever, we saw that there were more closeness. And from the side of Latin America also, you saw that the presidents, the different governments, they put much more emphasis on their relationship. We don't see the same thing now. Should we revise this? Well, I think we should. Of course, Latin America is also enchanted with new partners. The Asian friends, China, India, very important factors. New partners for trade, new partners for investment. Well, how do we balance all of this? Well, another topic for discussion. Well, also a very important and very crucial element, which is democracy. I think the region has done very well in many aspects. But can we be satisfied with the democratic situation in the region? All the elements are put together. Are the institutions working the way they should? What can we do? Well, these are things that the panelists will be discussing. Even we're lucky enough to have tomorrow President Carter, who precisely had a very definite role in reestablishing democracy in Latin America. Then going back to the region again, the regional integration schemes that we see, are they working? Are we going forward or backward? Don't you think there are too many schemes growing from here and there? Is any of those schemes working really as they should? Well, things that count. And of course, a central piece in the discussion in many of the panels would be the crisis in Europe, the slowness in the United States, and the implications they have for the region. Well, these are the things that will come. So I don't want to extend myself, but simply to mention that we are very, very pleased to have this excellent association during more than almost 2 decades, and that we have been able to put together a conference that is a conference in which we are very open to discuss with an open mind all the issues that are relevant for the hemisphere and specifically for Latin America-US relationship. So thank you very much, and I hope you will have an excellent 2 days of this conference. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and welcome again. I think that it's very clear that this is one business that's growing every year. I mean, last year we were in another place, in a venue where we had been for a long time, and we're very grateful to the Brookings institution, I should mention that. But it's time for a bigger place, and this is it. And almost all the chairs are occupied. For some reason, the first two, the front row are not occupied. I used to tell them that the people that should take them are in Charlotte at this time, and so I'm not going to come here. Well, anyway, I think that this, I mean, since this is the first meeting of the year for the Latin American part of this thing, and for the ones that do their work here in Washington, I should say that we should, the balance of the past years since the last conference is a good balance. At least from a political point of view. As Luis Enrique has pointed out, there are a lot of some concerns about the economy, some concerns that will probably continue until Europe and the US achieve a larger stability and growth. After all, we talk a lot about the emerging markets. We're going to talk about them now. We talk about the South, etc. But those two, US and Europe, continue to be half of the world economy. If something happens there, we are not going to be, we are going to be affected by all means, and that's something that's still going around Latin America, saying that, okay, we have done things well, we are not growing that fast as fast as we grew last year, but we still have to look at the picture of the global economy and find out what's going to happen there. From a political point of view, I should point out that we've had a normal year. We have had some elections, and some have been contested, fairly or not, but there have been clear results. We have observed those elections, and now that the election in Mexico has already finished officially, I can say that we had for the first time in our history an observation mission in Mexico. We were all over the country, and we think that the election was a clear one. I mean, there's a discussion on that, but from the point of view of the OAS, I can say that the election was a clear one, as was the one in the Dominican Republic, and former President Fernandez is here. We are still faced with a couple of challenges before the end of the year. One was going to be talked about here, Venezuela, but there are some others in the Caribbean. But in general, it has been a good year from the point of view of democratic rule. We had the problem of Paraguay, of course, we know that. We hope that we are working in the direction of solving that. As for then we had our summit. I should have started by the summit. I think it was a good summit. Very frankly, I mean, if you read the documents of the summit carefully, I think that in a great part, that's what President Santos had called the theme of the summit. What do we have to do to make this the decade of Latin America was covered. Of course, there were some political issues that are usually taken up in the press, as very relevant, very important. But in general, we have some very clear mandates from the summit. Energy, which has been mentioned as a big problem, was a big concern, especially at the business meeting, and I think that some important agreements were reached there. We got a mandate for the full review of drug policy, which has always also been discussed. So I think it was in general a good meeting, a good summit, a good dialogue at the Summit of the Americas. In a year in which, since there's an election in the US, as the president of Uruguay said, it would be very difficult to have answers on some of the issues that were being presented, and we should never ask for that because it was before an election. Now, I think that, of course, that in spite of this, it's been a peaceful year, and the announcement of President Santos yesterday closes a year in which, from the point of view of internal relations and problems among countries, closes a very good year. But we still are faced with the same challenges that are longer term. Of course, inequality continues to be a big challenge in Latin America. And with the economic growth and the rise of the middle classes, the problem doesn't become less a problem, it's probably a bigger problem, because there's a lot of demand from those newly come middle classes for the better education, better services, better distribution, etc. And that's a challenge that Latin America will have to face eventually. There's a big challenge of crime. It's also been mentioned so for a long time. I think we've had some good advances in coordinating, especially Central America and the other regions in matters of crime, but we still have a long way to go. And of course, there are political challenges. I think that some of them have been mentioned along the way. Of course, we still have a problem. The institutions are still a problem. An independent judiciary is a problem in several countries. Freedom of expression, which is basic in human rights, continues to be a certain problem. But I would put the accent in one more general impression that I have of several countries of the region, which is a problem. I mean, we are going to have elections in some countries. We've had some in others. And we have a very clear divisions in society. I spoke to a president. I will certainly not mention him there at this moment. A few days ago, and he told me that it was several months since he didn't speak with anybody in the opposition of the government. And I think democracy has a lot to do with what you would call chains of trust or webs of trust. And we are lacking in that. I mean, there's the lack of common ground among political forces in many countries in the region, not in all of them. There are some countries in which there's a lot of internal political dialogue, but I think that we are facing with a situation in which in some countries the chains of trust will be broken, and the elections are faced as a win-lose, completely. I mean, anyone who wins feels that he has won it all, and who loses thinks that he's out of the system. And I think that's dangerous for democracy. I think that the problem of chains of trust is a basic problem in the Americas today, in some countries of the Americas, and can become worse in the next years, because the differences among governments and oppositions are every time larger and not smaller. So I do hope that some of these matters we can talk about them today, and I welcome you again. Very, very pleased to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Secretary General. Let me just say, this is for the Inter-American Dialogue, this is our 30th anniversary year. And we're celebrating. And for more than half of our history, we've had this conference for 16 years now with CAF, and always in cooperation with the OAS. So this is extremely meaningful for the dialogue. I want to thank Secretary General Insulza for his cooperation. He mentioned the summit. The OAS also has a mandate to study the drug question, which is a question that is of enormous concern to all of us. And I really want to thank Enrique García, the president of CAF, Development Bank of Latin America. When we started this conference, it was said that CAF was the best kept secret in Washington. And for years now, it's not only not a secret in Washington, it's not a secret in Beijing or Berlin either, and the rest of the world. Enrique's leadership and commitment has resulted in an enormous remarkable expansion of CAF, and it really has really had an impressive performance in many, many different areas. So we are very, very grateful to him and really congratulate him for the extraordinary work he's done at CAF. We have a great We have a terrific program this year. It's always tough to fit so many important topics in just a single day, really, today and tomorrow. We have very, very knowledgeable, well-informed speakers. None of them need fact checkers. We've checked everybody's facts, and everybody's facts are absolutely perfect, so you don't have to worry about that at all. We have two very distinguished keynote speakers, President Fernandez, who will speak to you shortly, and President Carter, who will speak to you tomorrow. Both of them, I'm proud to say, are members of the Inter-American Dialogue and have contributed a lot to this organization, so I'm delighted about that. And I want to thank all the rest of the speakers for traveling and participating in this meeting. And a final word, if I could, just to thank first Andrés Rugeles of the CAF, who's been so important in helping organize this conference and really has done an extraordinary job. And we've loved working with him, and it's been a great pleasure. So Andrés, thank you very much. And finally, the wonderful staff at the Inter-American Dialogue who have all really pitched in for this conference that's important to all of us. And I want to thank in particular my colleagues Joan Caivano, who's done so much work, who's in the back there, Yesenia Rivas and Rachel Schwartz. Their contributions to this conference have really been extraordinary. So thank you all very, very much. And now we're ready to begin, and we're going to move to the first session, to President Fernandez, and it's my honor and pleasure to introduce the co-chair of the Inter-American Dialogue Board of Directors, the former U.S. Trade Representative, who will introduce our distinguished speaker and moderate this session, Carla Hills. So thank you very, very much, and we look forward to a great conference. Thank you.